All right, let me see if I got this. Oh, she has the request. Hi. Hey, sis. Let me see. Hey, y'all. I'm just doing a technology check. I'm hopping on kind of early. Cool. So me and the guest should be coming on. Hey, Jemima. Shortly, I just wanted to make sure the technology was up to par. Okay, I see Eb join. So are you join? Eb, are you joining from Can I Grieve? Or are you joining from your page? Thank you, cousin. Love you. Oh, accept. We did it. Oh, I'm so happy. I think I accepted the request. We're here. Okay. Let me move my computer so that y'all can get into the hose. Okay, honey child. Okay. 1 second. Oh, Jim, please. My cousin is crazy. Give me 1 second so that I can move something around. I'm gonna take my camera off for a second. All right. I'm trying to do so much. Unplug it. Bring it down. All right. Okay.
I need to put my phone.
D&D. Okay. Girl, I just had to do so much. All right.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Okay, cool.
Can you hear me?
I can definitely hear you.
Okay. Let me make sure I got my camera situation straight. Better. That's okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Hey, sis.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So are you ready? Are you ready to begin?
I'm ready.
Okay.
We early. We on time.
We on time. Okay.
Yes. I love it. Love it.
I love it too. Okay. So we said we weren't going to do anything super formal because we're good girlfriends.
Yeah.
But I definitely just wanted to just start off because I'm using this space to talk about my platform and your platform, what you're doing. So the first couple of minutes will be pretty formal of me just really introducing us both.
Mm-hmm.
And then really just having dialogue about like why we're here. And then I have some questions and I know you have some questions as well.
Yes. And I'm actually supposed to be on Can I Grieve page.
Okay, so click it off.
Yes.
Okay,
Let's
no
log
worries.
off and get back on. I was just like, which page am I
I
on?
asked you, I said, I did you hear me? I was like, are you going to do it off Can I Grieve?
Exactly.
Okay,
So,
no worries. Okay, so go ahead and then we can go right into it.
okay, cool. Be right
Okay.
back.
Yeah, all right, cool. All right. Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining. We are about to get started. We just want to check the technology. And then Ebony will be coming back. Hey, Mandy. Ebony will be coming back shortly. And then we'll get started. But thank you, everyone, for coming in. Perfect. All right. So I see that you joined. So just let me know what you request. I think I'll see when you request. Got it. Ah! Y'all know I don't know how to work this stuff, this live stuff now, child. I don't know. Okay. Girl,
Mm-hmm.
this live stuff is a trip.
Right.
But it's so beneficial. So we can go ahead and get started.
Okay.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Atia Stewart, and I'm the reigning Miss Black Maryland 2021. If you are tuning in for the first time and don't know much about my platform, let me catch you up to speed. As Miss Black Maryland, my platform sheds light on the stigmas around mental health in the African American community. So breaking the cycle seeks to use spaces like these, thank you, sis, to really just shed light on what's going on in our community. And so today I have the esteemed pleasure of talking with my good girlfriend. It'll be really, really informal, just a chat about grief and loss and how that is related to mental health and how that directly impacts African Americans.
Yes,
Hey,
yes.
Dr. Brianna. And so, Ebony, I just want to give a brief, just like background as far as you, and really
Mm-hmm.
simple, but Miss Gibson is an entrepreneur and businesswoman who created Can I Grieve to inspire individuals nationwide to rise above grief. Ladies and gentlemen, Miss Ebony Gibson.
It's so cute you introducing me. But I'm definitely excited, to be doing this with you. And again, like she said, my name is Ebony Gibson. I'm an entrepreneur, been an entrepreneur for the last 3.5 years. Recently launched my own brand called Can I Grieve? And she kind of told you what the purpose of that was. And yeah, like I said, I'm just excited to be here. I'm excited to talk about grief. I know that's a really big deal. And I'm excited to talk about mental health too, so I'm looking forward to this. I was excited when we set it up, and it's just going to be great. So if you're on here, definitely tell a friend, right? Share the link or share the live with them, because it's definitely going to be informative. So pass it back to you.
Absolutely. Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, so I wrote some questions down because I wanted to, of course, just kind of target some specifics towards African Americans. So you'll hear, I'll probably go off of a specific narrative and read it word from word. But essentially it's because that particular like passage or narrative I thought was too profound to not discuss.
Right.
And then we can kind of just go off there. But my first question, just in general, is just like, tell us about Can I Grieve? Like, what was the inspiration around creating your business?
Yes. So Can I Grieve? Like I said, I recently launched back in October of 2021. And it obviously stemmed from personal experience. Back in 2017, I lost my mom out of the blue. It wasn't anything that I was prepared for, anything that I knew about. Kind of just woke up one day and that was my reality. And so and I had, prior to that, I had never lost anybody close to me, like at all. Like maybe like a great uncle, great grandma, but nobody super close to me. So for that to be the closest person to me, it was very devastating. And then from there, I lost my grandfather. And then last year in October, I lost my first cousin. So all of my personal experience, plus the pandemic, with me just waking up every day, seeing people, grieving and losing loved ones to COVID, or just in general, it kind of developed something in me and kind of just birthed Can I Grieve? And so that's pretty much how Can I Grieve started. And since then, I've kind of been seeing like my peers go through, loss with loved ones and moms and dads. And I always feel like the fairy godmother, like, because I've been through it already, I always feel obligated to speak my piece and to, just send some words of encouragement. And so that's kind of where Can I Grieve came from. And now, the goal is just to touch lives nationwide through the brand in many different ways. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you have been touching lives. You did come. I invited Ebony, you guys, to my school that I work at, and she came and spoke to our students. And I think I had a couple staff members there as well. Everybody loved it. Super informative, super engaging. So if you do have a space where Ebony can come and really use whatever platform you have for her to be able to spread awareness about how to just really navigate through the stressors of grief and loss, please invite her, because she's super amazing. Engaging middle schoolers is not easy, and she nailed it. It was amazing. So thank you again.
Beautiful. It was beautiful. I would love to come again. I'm forever indebted to you for that experience. And it taught me a lot. I didn't even know that kids was able to relate to grief like that at such a young age, but to know that they have already went through it and they kind of understand it, it even shed more light of how many more people we got to touch. So it was a beautiful experience for sure.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. Talk to me a little bit about what you shared with them, like the stages of grief, because I think people, like, things happen, right? Like, grief is not just somebody passes away. Right. And I think you talked about that a little bit. Like, grief looks like so many different forms of loss: relationships, jobs, anything that you have like a connection to, in a sense.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Like, you can lose that.
And so, never have access to it again.
Ever again. And so it's not an easy thing. And I think a lot of people, when they are going through something, or at least just from my personal experience with my clients who suffer from loss, right? They're like, I don't know why I'm still like this. Like, I don't know why I'm still suffering, why I still feel how I feel. And it's just like, it's a process. Like healing takes time. So can we talk about the stages of grief and like what that looks like and like how important it is to just like navigate through it without feeling like you're supposed to just reach acceptance?
Yeah, exactly. So I always say that the 5 stages, and this is just my personal opinion, I don't think that they're in any order, and I don't think that I've experienced all of them, right? Because I feel like 5 years from now, 10 years from now, I could start to experience a stage that I haven't experienced yet, like denial, right? Like let's say it's my wedding day, and I'm expecting my mom to be it. That could be a time where that is where I'm triggered and now starting to feel that emotion. So I always say, I don't believe it's in any specific order, but we can definitely touch on, I don't know, do you want to touch on them individually or you want me just to name them?
Oh, well, no. So I wrote them down. I know you know them off the top of your head, girl. I wrote them down, and I just really just want to just touch on it. Like, so the stage is essentially for the followers and for listeners, denial, and and technically denial is supposed to be like the first stage because after you have this loss of a job or we're gonna just use family member, right? Typically, supposedly, we start off in the denial stage, and then
right.
Anger, and then there's bargaining, and then depression, and then acceptance. Apparently, that's how it's supposed to go. But we know, just like you said, it's up and down. Like you can be in a stage where you might have accepted it, and then like 5 years later, it's time for you to walk down that aisle, and you're looking for mom. Like
right.
you just said. So I don't know. I just wanted to just allow for individuals to know that grief is not just like a person passes or something is taken away from you and then you're just supposed to like keep it going, because I think in our community, like we suffer loss so much, and that's one of the questions we talk about. I have for you, like we suffer loss so much, whether it's like violence in the community, whether it's like financial losses. I mean, just our own existence is a threat,
right,
to some, right? And so just that in general, I just wanted to just let people know, like there are stages for you to be able to navigate through the things that you're going through, and it's not supposed to be cut dry. You get to the point.
Exactly. Like I was saying, you can feel any stage, at any time. And nobody can really tell you how to grieve. That's one of the things that I had to learn. And that's one of the things that I tell people. Like, I think one of the misconceptions is people always say it'll get easier with time or better with time. I don't think it ever gets easier. You just learn how to deal with it because you don't have a choice. You know what I mean? But yeah.
Okay. So when we talked about stages of grief, we talked about the stages that we know to be true. But then when I was doing some research, I saw that there's actually 5 stages of Black grief. Can you believe they have grief for Black people?
Like, no, I never heard of that.
I didn't know. Look, so let's inform the people. So okay. I'm reading this directly from the statement. So African Americans are likely to maintain ongoing spiritual connections with deceased loved ones, mark birth and death occasions connected to loved ones through dreams or their sense of like their loved one's presence, or have conversations with them, and make like frequent visits to the cemetery. We do it all the time, right? Like we're at the cemetery. Let me tell you, my mom, I'm going on a tangent, but my mom, Jamaican, love her, but her way of thinking about, like my grandma recently passed, her way of thinking like, y'all gonna go talk to her? Y'all just wanna go sit and stand by the grave? And it's just like, there's a connection for us, right?
For
like,
sure.
You know what I'm saying? It's not about, I know my grandmother is no longer here, but just being able to have a space to go and just feel like I can still feel her, knowing her body is there.
Exactly.
But people see grief differently. Like my mom's experience was not my experience. Like I still make sure I go to my grandmother's grave, like at holidays or whatever, anything that I feel is directly correlates to like, the relationship we have. I'm there with the flowers and all. No, she can't hear me, child. But it's just the fact that I know she's there. So let me tell you. So apparently, okay, there are for African Americans, the 5 stages of Black grief looks like this. So changes in self-identity is one. So likewise, in a close-knit culture, there is an interconnectedness with the village, right? Like our village. Okay. And that affects oneself of just belonging in the African American community more so than others. So what they're saying is essentially for African Americans, we feel a change in ourself, in our identity when we lose someone. That's a possibility.
I can agree with that.
I agree with that too. especially when that person holds a huge role in your life, and or it happens suddenly or it doesn't.
Yeah.
You've never not had that person or that thing or that experience, and then when you lose
Exactly.
it, it's a shock.
For sure.
So it's no way. So I completely agree with the change in self-identity. Okay, let's go through this. Kinship. A loss to an extended family member or close friend in the African American community is just as significant as a loss in one's nuclear family. That's back to that village, right? Because as African Americans, our play cousins, our god sister, our mom's friend, we're all family, right?
For
So
sure.
so that kinship, like, you don't have to be my sister. You don't have to be, no, you're family because we grew up together, and we don't have to be blood, but that connection, that bond, losing that kinship, that's a key piece.
Yeah.
All right, I'm running through. Only got 2 more. Then we have professional post-social support. So African Americans, this is again from the excerpt, African Americans are also less likely to use professional therapy services and embody, okay? And researchers suggest African Americans believe that sorrow and suffering are to be expected, and difficult circumstances are tolerated rather than seeking out help to address the situation. So family support
stick a pin there.
Right. Family support helps, but really, we just our own experience as African Americans, we are super resilient. And so I think at times when people pass away, especially in this area where people die all the time, it's like it's a numbness. Right. And then with that numbness, it's like, I mean, well, he was out here in the streets, or it's kind of like, I mean, it is what it is, as it's like.
Right. So why do you think African Americans typically don't seek therapy, whether it's dealing with a loss or mental health or in general? Why do you think that is? Just your personal opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's just not having, for one, if you already have not thought about therapy or counseling, right? And this is new, that's already something that you may not feel comfortable with, right? So I know plenty of people who have lost someone super close to them. I'm like, you need to go to therapy. And they look at me like, what? And I'm like, you need to go talk to somebody. You need some support, And so that's not the first thing that comes to somebody's mind if they don't already prioritize their mental health. Not to say they don't care, but if that is not something you already have in your regimen, and you're every other week or monthly or quarterly, you're talking to someone about how you're feeling, somebody passes away, you're going to use the same tools you've been using this whole time to get through any other stressor you've had. And that's making it work and navigating. Right. So
and I know you, not to cut you off, I know that you personally attend therapy frequently, and you love it. So can you speak to the people that may have a negative connotation or associate therapy in a negative way, how it's like impacted you? Because I know you've experienced your own loss as well.
Yeah. So I was introduced to therapy at a younger age, and I hated it, child. And I hated it because I felt like like a lot of people could feel like it just felt very like I didn't have privacy. It felt like I didn't know this person. I didn't have no rapport with this person. And at the time, I was in therapy for something that it was not necessarily my idea. So I wasn't really super willing to be open, right? And so it wasn't until college. So that was probably when I was 13. It wasn't until college, so maybe 5-6 years later, I had another experience in which I sought out therapy. But I'm like, look, I'm paying this tuition. Somebody up here can help me. So that was my mindset about I'm in a dark space and I need some support. And so I reached out to our counselor. I did that for just as needed. And then I went on to graduate from college, and then went into my master's program, and really was having struggles in my program, working full time on top of going to school full time on top of interning full time. And so I'm burning out, and I don't even know what burnout looks like at this time because I'm just joining the program. And so essentially I started to feel weird, like sleeping long and just not feeling like myself. So once again, I just started to do my research, looked on psychologytoday.com. That's a resource. Therapy for Black girls is a resource. Therapy for Black men is a resource. So I just looked at resources online, read about my therapist, And based on which she provided the service I felt she could provide, I felt like it connected with what I needed at the time and still to this day. And so that's what made me seek her out. But I think a lot of times people are not going to seek something out that they've never done or not, or was not promoted. Like we're in a different time now when it comes to mental health. It's blasted everywhere. You're getting mental health days at work, maybe, right? Like mental health it looks different. It's not back in the day where it's like, oh, you crazy. Oh, you
right.
Oh, you talk to a therapist. Like there's stigma, period. Like that's what my whole platform is about, breaking the cycle of the stigma so that we can get help, so that we're not continuously like trying to be in these same cycles that we're in because of the lack of just seeking out the support when we need it. I don't know if that answered your question.
It definitely did. It definitely explains why the average person, not even just African Americans, why they wouldn't seek therapy, because it's not the norm. But I think another good thing that she said is you've researched your therapist, because I know some people have negative encounters, or they don't really feel like the person that they're going to counseling with or therapy with can relate to them. But I think something that you said was important was that you've researched your therapist. So you already knew what to expect and how him or her was able to relate to you.
Absolutely. And another thing that I felt was important, just personally, just as a Black woman, was having a Black woman as my therapist. Like,
exactly.
Like we gotta be here with it. Like, she doesn't have to be from the same area. But she has to understand my struggle as a Black woman. So that was important for me as well, connecting with someone that looks like me. And I encourage anyone to seek out whoever they want to see. I'm just saying what worked for me, what worked best for Atia. And that was essentially making sure that person looked like me and could understand me. And what I can say is I couldn't figure out for a little bit. I've been in that was 2018. I had a session on Thursday. Like, I'm just like, after like years being able to be that comfortable, like being in therapy, but I had to go through the motions. I couldn't just stop because it felt uncomfortable, because we're talking about stuff that makes you feel uncomfortable. That's why you're here, right? It's not fun. My therapist give me homework. I'm reliving trauma. Like, it's not fun. It's not fun, but it's enlightening, and it has made me the person I am today. And that is why I push mental health support. I push counseling. Like, no matter if I see somebody going through it online, I see it wherever sometimes I try not to consume it as much, but if I see it and I see somebody like a cry for help, I'm going to send a resource. I'm going to reach out. I'm going to ask them if they want some support, because I think that's the issue. Like, just lack of awareness.
And resources.
Absolutely. And that was one of the things that I wanted to bring up too. Like, this is a part of the study. So it says, according to a study published in Journal of Death and Dying, African Americans are more likely to experience prolonged grief. And however, they are less likely to seek treatment. So exactly what we just talked about, due to cultural stigma, systemic barriers to care. So, like, really, I think it's necessary for us to seek this support and this out. But as a person who lost someone who was close to them, like, did you feel like, was that something you thought about when when you had your loss of Ma? Like, how was that for you?
So a lot of people definitely suggested it to me. Even the doctor that I was going to, Kaiser, it was something that they were offering for free. So I was never like negative towards it. I just think I didn't feel at the time that I did need it. And I always tell people, I personally did not get therapy, but I don't like not condone it. Like, I definitely, I'll promote it. Like, I definitely think if that's something you need, you should get it. For me personally, I was surrounded. The loss happened 2 days before my birthday. So my family, my friends, and my support system was amazing. I don't know if I would have been able to move on, and not even move on, right? Because it's forever, and it's a forever scenario that I'm dealing with. But I don't think I would have been able to navigate and pick up the pieces the way I was able to without my support system. But like I said, I know everybody doesn't have, family and friends, or, a huge support system. But that's kind of what I leaned on. But I do think in the future it's definitely something I'm going to consider, just because you never know. You never arrive, right? You're never done learning, you're never done healing. And I think it may be some things that I haven't personally realize yet, but going to therapy, it may bring it out, which ultimately, like you said, it makes you who you are today, because you were able to now deal with it and now become, a better person from it. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, and I push therapy like it's no tomorrow, but I always tell people like it's your choice. So I'm never
Exactly.
like you need to go like it's more of like, have you thought of therapy? Like it's always
Exactly.
friendly, I'm
Exactly.
never like you need to go. It's always like,
Exactly.
it sounds like you need some support. Like it
Right.
like real talk. So
Exactly. And you
that,
know what it's done for you. So that's why you're able to offer it to people. And like you said, it's all about how you say it too. And I know you've actually experienced your own loss as well. Can you kind of touch on um, maybe not what you experienced, but how you kind of navigate? It's up to you if you want to touch
sure.
on, the situation, but how you kind of dealt with your grief
Yeah, so
and
when
your loss.
so my grandmother passed away in 2020 during the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
The way she passed away, I think it brought me a lot of comfort because she passed away in front of us. She was in like it was an entire room, and it was during the pandemic, but we had the space to be able to like be there around her, and she literally passed in front of us. Like we were there with her the entire day until she slept away. So I don't think it was until, and this may be a little bit graphic, but like they carried her body out is when
Mm-hmm.
it started to really like, like it started to really hit me here. And
Yeah.
so fortunately that night I had my boo at the time or whatever, he was there for me. And so I was, I felt like comforted.
Yeah.
But after that, it was tough. It was really tough. So she passed in August, and then we buried her the week before my 25th or 26th birthday.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know how much I was impacted by her loss until December, when
Wow.
I was just like not myself. And I
Mm-hmm.
had so much I was trying to still do with not keeping in mind that I still needed time to grieve the loss of my grandmother.
Yeah.
And so it was very, very tough. And I didn't realize all of the stuff that was going on in my life and how I just it just didn't click to me for a while. It took months for me to
Yeah.
start to realize like, oh, I'm depressed because I lost my grandma. But it was also this thing, and I want to talk to you about this, like,
Mm-hmm.
um, and now I'm being more appreciative of the people who I have around. Like my mom is 60, she about to be 62 on, sorry mom, I'm gonna give you out your birthday, but she'll be 62 on the 31st, I believe, the 62. And like I don't live with her anymore, but like I'm so like not selfish, but to myself, like sometimes I'll just be wanting my space, or I just want, but like
Yeah.
I'm making the conscious effort now, like let me just go stop past the house, or let me just go do those
Mm-hmm.
things. So I think that is what kind of helped me, because I want to be there for her. And also I just feel like you just never know, like, you know
Yeah.
what I'm saying, like you just never know, like your story broke me, like when I like, when I found
Yeah.
out. So it's just like I don't want to take advantage or take for granted the people that I have here while I have myself. And I think that's what helped me get through,
Mm-hmm.
just really grieving my grandmother. And then, like we talked about, like that connection, like going to her grave and just like making her proud, and just like thinking of like all of those stuff. Like I'm like one of her favorite grandchildren. I mean, whoever's on the call from the family, don't be mad.
Right.
I'm one of the favorites. So
Exactly.
just keep it in mind that like while she was here, excuse me, I did nothing but make her proud. And
Mm-hmm.
so just kind of really shifting the narrative. I think it was just heavy because it was just new. Like she was 90.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? So she's all I know. And it's kind of like you just never know when you're gonna get that call. And it was like we were
Mm-hmm.
there for it, and it still was like pretty shocking, but it was comforting knowing that it was during the pandemic and she didn't die in the hospital. She was surrounded by her loved ones. She was in her home that she owned.
Yeah.
It just felt like okay, like she was 90. You know what
Yeah.
I'm
That's a
saying? Like,
good life.
let
I
the lady
hope to make
rest.
it that far. Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I'm
That's a
saying?
good
So
life.
that's what was comforting. And just knowing that while she was here, I definitely thinking back, I could have did more, but
Mm-hmm.
all I can do now is just be there for my family that's still here. And she really wanted us all to be together and to really like be there for each other. And so that's all I can do is just try to foster that for her. And so that's what makes me, that's how I got through my grief. And I still go through it. Like I have my moments when I have my moments. Like when I think about her, or, you know, I think my friend gave me this really nice globe of her. And so sometimes, you know, little things trigger me. You know what I'm saying? But you just take it a day at a time. Like, you know, it's never something that I think I'll fully be over or heal from, but like she's had like 30 plus grandchildren and, you know, great grandchildren. She got to see like life. Like I feel like she lived a good life.
For sure. It sounds like it.
Yeah, she did. She did her thing. And she came from Jamaica. Made her way, child. Okay?
I love it. So did my grandma. She's actually here now. She's 78. So it's definitely a blessing, you know, to have your grandparents in your life. And I love everything that you said about, you know, just cherishing people while they're here, because you never know when they won't be here, you know.
Absolutely. I think that's the biggest thing. Absolutely. Oh, do you want to go to your next question? Because I think my next question we talked about. Go ahead.
So, why is therapy so important in the Black community? Because I feel like we talked about why, you know, we don't typically seek therapy, but why do you think it's so important in our community?
Yeah, I think it's important because it is important for us to have a different perspective. So like, I talk about the psychodynamic theory, and I feel like I need to do some more just like updating as far as like my academic knowledge. That's neither here nor there, but like the psychodynamic theory is one of my favorite theories because it essentially talks about how like our caregivers and like the people who raised us are like essentially we become the product of them. And so I think it's important when we think about what have you observed another person going to therapy, right? Like if you haven't seen it, you're not going to do it. You know, if this doesn't make you feel comfortable, you're not going to do it. So I think that being able to have a different perspective, someone that is literally paid, who went to school, who did research, who knows interventions, who can implement them into your life. Like, why not have this person who is not biased, who's not your girlfriend, that's just going to say whatever that's going to appease you, make you feel good. Why not seek professional support? Just like if you needed physical support, right? Your arm is hurting. You're like, why does my arm keep hurting? Like, you're not just going to like, unless you have a situation where you have lack of access to medical care, because that's something, right, for us. You're not going to just be walking around with your arm broke. Like, you're going to seek out some kind of support to get that healing back in place. And whenever you go to the doctor, they're not just going to like snap it back in place and you're good. No, it's a process. Like you have to get an X-ray, you know, you have to get a cast, you have to carry it for a certain amount of time. Like that's, I think when people think about therapy as well, they think of it as a quick fix. It's not a quick fix. It takes work.
Yeah.
Right? So that's the second thing. So essentially being able to have a different perspective is why it's important. Knowing it's not a quick fix. I'm not here to solve your problems. I'm here for you to use this space to process your feelings.
Yeah.
And then, right? And then after you process your feelings, how can you now implement that into your everyday life? And then lastly, I think also, and I think I lost my train of thought a bit because I'll be rapping, y'all.
No, it's good stuff. It's good stuff. I love the perspective because perspective is everything.
It is.
And when you know better, you do better. So I love that.
Exactly. And that's all you can really do. Really, the last part, hopefully it'll come back to me, but essentially those are the two things that, based off of what I just shared, I feel is really important. Just talking to somebody who doesn't know you. And then also, you know what I'm saying? Because like, that's the best part about it. Like, if you can't be real with your therapist, who you gonna be real with? Like,
right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, but you have to be comfortable too. Oh, what I was gonna say is, another reason why it's important is because, like, okay, I think a reason why we stray away from it again is because you find a person and you don't like them, and this is what I say every time. For a person who goes to where you like to go eat, Ed?
Oh man. I like Del Frisco's.
Okay, I
I
knew you
like
was gonna say something
Chris.
fancy. Okay,
Yeah.
so let's just say Del Frisco's. You go to Del Frisco's. Let's say it's one on Wisconsin Avenue. I think it is one in Wisconsin, in the Bethesda area. Okay, so let's say
Yeah,
we
I
at
think
the
so.
yeah. So let's say
Mm-hmm.
we at the Bethesda one, girl. We getting crappy service, like, but you love Del Frisco's.
Right.
Are you never gonna go to Del Frisco's ever again, or what you gonna do?
I'm gonna go
Instead of
to
going,
a different one.
I'm gonna go to a different one. I'm not
Yeah.
gonna go to Bethesda anymore. I'm gonna go to the one in DC or
In Gallery,
Virginia.
exactly.
But you're gonna go to Del Frisco's again.
Mm-hmm.
And I think people don't look at therapy like that. Like it's kind of like I tried. You know,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? And so I think that's a barrier to why we don't seek out support, because when we try, we are disappointed, because I've heard, and I've talked about this on a podcast that I was on,
Mm-hmm.
I hear horror stories of people who just should not continue to practice therapy or counseling. And these people are continuing to have their license and are having negative impacts on people because they make the sessions about them. They're
Mm-hmm.
nasty to them. They are not really getting an adequate service. And so, you give up and you're like, I ain't doing no more. I tried. I didn't like it. I'm not doing it anymore. You know what I'm saying? And so I think that's another reason why I like just being deterred, because the experience is not, first of all, you don't know what to expect. And then you get there and somebody is not warm, not willing to engage you so that you guys can build rapport, just jumping right in it, just not being, not making the experience feel therapeutic, like, you
Yeah.
know? And so with that, I think that's another reason why we're just like straying away from it. But we need to break that cycle, and that's what my platform is all about. Let's break the cycle of people not feeling, African Americans not feeling comfortable with seeking out support. Just like if you had the ability to seek out support for your physical needs, you would do that, because your mental health is aligned with your physical health. If your mental not good, your physical's not going to be good, and it's the same. It's vice versa.
So true.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's hard out here, girl. Now, I got a question for you.
Okay.
All right, because I see a couple little people trickling back in. And since we have some people's attention, I want to ask you, like, what are some helpful tips followers can use when experiencing grief and loss?
Good question. So definitely, like you said, you have those times where you have moments or something could possibly trigger you. So I always tell people, be present with those feelings, be present with those emotions. For me, I'm a naturally happy person. I don't like to be sad, but when I feel something, I acknowledge it and I'm present with it. So I would definitely say anytime that you are having a moment, acknowledge it. Don't ignore it, because you don't want things to build up. Um, Outside of that, I would definitely suggest therapy, right? Even though I haven't, taken therapy, I still think it's a good option, and it's like I said, it's still something I'm considering in the future, but that's another resource. Also, like I said, if you have close family members and friends, be around people that love you, people that care about you, because isolation and depression, that's not something that God favors. He does not want you to be isolated. He doesn't want you to be alone. So just being around people that can uplift your spirit and pour into you. I also think that's great. Prayer, right? Prayer that should have been the first thing I said. But the word is always great, and you can ask people, to pray for you, even though I'm pretty sure people are already praying for you. And then just checking on yourself, giving yourself grace. Whatever that looks like. I know a lot of the new thing right now is staycations, where people are like going places. I know you even do that too. You be like, girl, I just came back from a weekend and you only in DC or Maryland somewhere. So doing things like that. Whatever positive outlets, just taking time for yourself. Like I said, that could be, you taking a day off from work, or you doing a staycation, whatever that looks like, just positive ways to make sure you're okay, making sure you're eating, making sure you're resting, and then just seeking help if you need help. There's a bunch of resources out there. I just don't think that we take the time to figure out what is out there, right? Kind of like with therapy. We don't really do our research. We just hear about it, and because it's not the norm, we don't do it.
Right.
So those are just a few that I can think off the top of my head. What about you?
So I love that you said like checking in with yourself and giving
Mm-hmm.
yourself grace, because back to the stages of grief, like it's not a straight line. You know, grief
Mm-hmm.
looks like this. And so being able to, like you said, take those mental health days, take or self-care day or whatever to
Mm-hmm.
support wherever you are and being in tune with your emotions, I think is super important. Because if you are navigating through the day or through the week and you're like, I don't know why I'm just so angry, I don't know, have you sat and taken time to really reflect? Like, have you sat and taken time to really like think about how this person's passing or loss has impacted your life? Probably not. Like, because
Right.
usually it's really like we get 2 3, if you're not an entrepreneur, we get
Mm-hmm.
3 days to grieve, and you back at work on Wednesday,
Yeah.
and so, right. And so, or if you don't have leave and you still are not in a space after the funeral, but you still got to go to work because you still have to pay those bills, right? Like, what are things that you can do? And so I really love the fact that you said self-care and like seeking mental health support. That's what one I was going to say. That's the first one I'm going to say. And seeking God, like you said, whomever you pray to or believe in or whatever is spiritually appropriate for you. Absolutely. I think I agree with all of them. I don't think there was anything that you touched on that I wouldn't have said, or you nailed them all.
Right. I
Yeah.
just thought about another one, because
Hmm.
there are support groups too, like just like there's, domestic violence, survivor groups and breast cancer groups. I'm pretty sure there are grief groups out there as well. And then I forgot, can I grieve? Of course, duh. I didn't even think
Duh.
about that. But yeah, that's a great resource, in the future. I definitely plan to connect with some people that are licensed, where we can offer grief counseling. I always tell people I'm not like licensed, but I do think experience beats license in a way,
Oh,
because you can speak from experience, and although you have the license, that doesn't mean you can relate. So,
absolutely.
that's just from experience, though. But like I said, there's counseling, and there are people that are licensed that can help as well.
Absolutely. And speaking to, and just to clarify, because people will hop on and be like, what does she mean?
Right,
Like,
right, right.
essentially, I'm a licensed mental health professional. I have not experienced, outside of my grandmother, like, I have not experienced grief like that before prior to that experience. And so prior
Hmm.
to that, it probably would have been more difficult for me when I'm talking to clients when they're expressing their grief. It might have been, I might have not learned something from the experience that I had, that I may have been able to support them or have them be able to figure out and identify on their own if I did not experience it myself. So
Right,
I agree with you, but I also want people to be aware that, like, just because a person hasn't experienced it, that doesn't don't shy away from it because you feel like they can't connect. There are
right,
support groups, like Ebony said. There's Can I
right.
Grieve? Like, we have there is a way for you if you feel like your mental health professional is not hitting it how they need to hit it right for you. There are other resources that can support
Hmm.
you in addition to you getting that support through your mental health professional. So
Thank you for
totally correct.
clearing that up, my sister.
Yes, because I did not want the people to take you and turn you into a daggone viral. She said licensed mental health professionals don't know
Right.
what
No,
they're doing.
no, no.
No, 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 no. But one day when our platform is bigger and, like, honey, child, we're going to have to clarify these people for these people just in
Exactly.
case. So, we're too funny, too funny. But I have one more thing that I just wanted to share, and it's just like going back to like us being disproportionately impacted by this just being disproportionately impacted by like years and years of like oppression and just
Hmm.
like what we came from as far as like our ancestors. And so I think it's just important to I just want to say this piece for the people. So health is determined in large part by opportunity, the opportunity to access equality or quality education, the opportunity to work in a safe environment, live in a safe neighborhood, the opportunity to breathe clean air, and drink clean water. Like, these are things that we regularly have access to that everybody does not. And so the Black community disproportionately experiences adverse health outcomes because too often we don't have access to these opportunities.
Hmm.
So, right. So for over 400 years, African Americans have had to navigate a system that is stacked against us, right?
Yeah.
Stacked against people of color. And it's a system defined by institutional racism that privileges white people. And so, this is something that we have been battling for so long, and that is why I feel like I just want your take on this, like the violence that we see in DC or like, and
Mm-hmm.
even Maryland too. Like, I think a lot of people kind of like frown their nose up, like they killing each other. They are trying to survive. I am not no way, shape, or form saying like the ghost guns and this and
Yeah.
that is okay. I'm not promoting that. But when you don't have access to clean water, when you are sleeping in a one bedroom with 8
Mm-hmm.
people, like when you are really struggling and you don't have support, what you think a person is going to do? And that's because of how the system was set up for us not to win. Like, so I don't know. I just feel like people just look at things, not everyone, but it's one-sided. Like, let's look at the full picture, like about this person. Why is this person willing to kill you over a chain? Like, what, like, is it envy? Is it jealousy? Was he hungry? Did he need the money? Like, you know what I'm saying? And so
Yeah.
I think that's why it's important for us to have conversations like this, so we can go and talk to the people
Mm-hmm.
who continuously display these behaviors in the community, because that's what they know, right? Like, killing people, that's nothing. Like, taking a life is nothing to people, to
Yeah.
certain people, right? And to us, it's like, oh my God, but like, you don't understand how you're perpetuating like this for the next person, like how this is now impacting another person because you were so hasty with the gun, or like hasty and ready to, stab or kill, whatever the method of the criminal activity. But essentially, I on one end, I'm looking at it like, let's really look at like why people do the things they do that lead to the death rates, then the death tolls that we have in the city, or even here in Maryland. And it's because of just lack of access and just like the inability for us to thrive. And I think it's really unfortunate.
Yeah, I think it's also the environment, right? Because the lack of resources, I don't know if it's, I believe that that's a part of the problem, but it's also some people do have, resources, and they choose because they only know one environment. That's the environment that they want to stay up in. But I do think the environment that you are in, that's all you know. So your dad, may have been into gangs or violence. And so naturally, you seeing that, you naturally want to do that as well.
Yeah.
Right. So I definitely think, like you said, it has to be deeper than just, emotional thing like jealousy or envy. I definitely think
Mm-hmm.
like all these carjackings that are taking place in
Mm-hmm.
our area,
Mm-hmm.
to be specific, I would assume that they need the money. They selling the cars. I don't think they're just jacking people and jacking the cars just for
Mm-hmm.
fun.
I
You know what I
know.
mean? So I think it could be lack of resources, like you said. But I think, the conversations that we're having and conversations that needs to be had, we can try to figure out the root of why this is happening, because it is taking a toll on the Black community. Especially like with females, we've been seeing a lot of Black African American, females losing their life to violence, even
Mm-hmm.
kids, and in front
Mm-hmm.
of kids. So
Mm-hmm.
to me, something has to be off in your mental for you to even harm a child, or even in front of a child, you perform
Right.
an act of violence.
Right.
So I don't know if, like you said, if it's a lack of resources, or I don't know if it's environment, like I said, or what. But I definitely think conversations need to be had, and that's why I'm glad that you have the platform that you have, where and that you are in social work and you're in the field doing, the groundwork, so that we can try to figure out how to get better as a whole.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank
Mm-hmm.
you. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, absolutely. My last thing that I was thinking about was just like the pandemic and
Mm-hmm.
how, with you creating Can I Grieve, like how has the pandemic impacted that work that you're doing? So
Yeah.
essentially, like the people that have the many lives that have been lost, like how is that directly, like, not necessarily, I don't want to use that word, but like what has that been like since Can I Grieve has come about?
Yeah, so like I said, it was created in a pandemic. We still in a pandemic. So it was definitely created in a pandemic. But I just think, like I was saying, seeing people every day, whether they were losing someone to, COVID, or, whether people were losing their job. A lot of people were laid off from their job. A lot of people were losing their house, or, having to decrease their lifestyle to fit the new lifestyle. Y'all know gas is like $90 a gallon, like just everything that people are dealing with. And like you talked about in the beginning, and like I always tell people, grief is just not a person. You can grieve a relationship. You can grieve, your lifestyle before COVID. You can grieve anything that you no longer have access to. And so I think for me, I just saw Can I Grieve as a platform to be able to provide and put together a support group for people to know it's okay to grieve, hence Can I Grieve? It's not really a question. It's really more so of a statement. Like, can I grieve? Like, give me a second, like more so, not really a question. And so, like I said, ultimately the goal is to offer grief counseling, but I definitely wanted to put together different events, such as mental health days, or talking about different diseases that affect the Black community, like heart disease. That's one of the number one diseases, as far as like strokes and heart attacks and things like that. That's a big deal in the community. So Can I Grieve, like I said, it was really just to create it to inspire people to rise above grief by providing resources and by having different events. And we offer care packages as well, that people can purchase. So just different things to help people grieve and to rise above grief. And like I said, just everything that I was seeing with the pandemic, just wanted to provide an outlet for people. And just letting people know it is okay to grieve, and this is something that we all go through. Why not? Let's get through it together.
Absolutely. And you talked about support groups. You talk about the network that you had when mom passed away. Like I think that is like a red, like flags are going off my head to just say, like, surround yourself around supports. Do not isolate. Just like you said, you've already shared out, like, do not isolate yourself. I think that's the first thing we're ready to do is like go hide and cover ourselves and go into a shell, go in a corner. It's like, there are people that can support you, whether you feel comfortable with mental health support or not, or counseling, a friend. There are Twitter spaces. Like, they have there's so much going on with social media. You can find somewhere you can find some support, and free support too at that, because access is a thing, right? Like, that's a part of breaking the cycle, like access, education, community. Like, access is a huge barrier to why people don't get mental health support, education, lack of awareness. So, like, not knowing about these kind of forums, right? In the community, like, that is another thing, connecting with other people to continue to spread awareness. So I think absolutely you are so right. Like, having that support system is it. And I love the play on words with the Can I Grieve, because I always looked at it as a question mark. But it's like, can I grieve? Please.
Right. There's no question mark behind it.
Absolutely. And I really love the play on words. I really love how you did that. I literally just peeped that today.
Yeah.
So honestly, that is all I have. Like, we touched on everything else. You did touch a little bit on like loss and different like ways that you can lose someone, and it not just be via someone passing away. And I think that is another thing that I struggle with. Just like whether it be like cutting off relationships or like just like loss of a friendship. Like, for a long time, I think I struggled with that. And so that was work that I had to do in therapy, right? Like, to be able to learn how to, like, when those things come about, how I'm supposed to, like, what's the best way that's going to work for Tia for me to navigate through those things. So I'm glad that you touched on that as well, because grief looks like it looks different, right? It's not just when you lose someone. And so I just want to reiterate that. But outside of that, that's all I have. Did you have any other questions?
I did. One last question.
Go ahead. Yes, ask away.
What made you get into social work? Was it any like personal experience, or like what made you go that route per se?
That's a great question, because when so initially I went to school at UMES. I felt like I accomplished a lot at the time, and I graduated and I felt like I hit rock bottom. I'm like, what am I doing? I'm working at Clucky Chicken, like, no shade to anybody in the restaurant field, but I was like, I have a bachelor's. Like, what am I doing here? I did not feel like I worked that hard to be in that place. So I did a lot of work within myself. I was really, really depressed. I really needed to find some support. So I started to like exercise in the area, like in my neighborhood, and really pour into myself. And one time I felt like I was like in pouring into myself, I rebuilt my relationship with God. And I felt like I saw a family like at a Chick-fil-A or something, and something tingled within me. And it was just like, you want to help them. Like, it was something that just made me feel bad every time I saw homeless people, even to this day. Like, that was my goal, like, to work with the homeless population. I have not since then worked with them in that capacity in any shape or form as of yet. But that was initially how I felt like why I felt like I wanted to seek out getting education and social work. So I reached out I was doing community service in Atlanta for this internship that I had when I was in college, and I was doing community service with this woman who had a nonprofit. And so when I saw the family at the side of the road at Chick-fil-A, I reached out to her and I was like, hey, I saw this family, like, you know, I think I really want to like help people. Like, do you have any advice for me? Like, I hadn't talked to this lady in years. So that goes back to network. And she's like, well, I'm having trouble with my nonprofit because I want to, because I need a background in social work. So if you feel like you want to help people, if you feel like that's what you're passionate about, seek a education in social work. So I look for programs. I got into a program. I love my program. I've worked in many different arenas. I worked in the Baltimore County Department of Corrections. I worked in a crisis hotline. And I've done some PRP work, working in communities, in impoverished communities in Baltimore. I did school. I'm currently doing school social work. I've done foster care. And so at this point in time, I'm in a place where I couldn't see myself doing anything else.
Right.
I could not. And I started off like, I don't want to be a social worker because of the stigma. And so, you know, right, like I'm a therapist, like, you know, on top of what I do, like, and people don't realize that social work is huge. You can do so much. If I wanted to do forensic social work, and like if I wanted to work,
it's levels to it.
It's levels to it, but you have to be licensed. So that was what I guess, and I don't know if this makes me like, I don't know how this would make me sound essentially, but like once I realized that there was a bag attached to the licensed child, I was like, I'm a social worker, and I was proud. And it could, because before I was like, I'm not fit. Like, I love the work that I do, but it's so taxing. Like, how you not going to pay me? It's so taxing. It's not easy. And so it wasn't until I knew what I was talking about, I did my research, and I was in the classes loving it. Like, wow, like a 4.1 in my master's program. Like, what? That's just super nerd for no reason, because I really loved it. Like, I essentially really, really loved it. So every time you ask me a question, girl, I'm mad long-winded, but to make a long story short, my network was what got me to where I am right now, as far as being in the social work field. And I'm so grateful for her. I need to reach out to that lady. I have not talked to her in years. But once again, that's how you do it, network. Like, that's why it's so important to network with people. You just never know how another person can impact your life.
For sure. I love it. Well, I'm glad we were able to have this conversation. I don't have any more questions. Do you have any more for me?
I don't think I have any questions. I want to know where Can I Grieve is going next.
Okay.
That's it. What's up next? What do we look? And then we need to drop our Thank you, Big Corey. We need to drop your information in the comments box or something. Like, I'll do a post. Like, I'll definitely save this video, airdrop it to you, so you have it. Like, I'll come by the house so you can get it. That works for you?
Yeah, that's
okay. So I'll do that, and then we airdrop it so you can have it. But yes, Can I Grieve? In the comments, you guys, that is how you can reach out to Ebony to have her come out. I'm actually going to reach out to you about coming back to the school, because they gave us some coin, and you're going to be coming back. So we have our second group on Wednesday, and then our third one, I'll reach out to you about that in April.
Okay.
So if you guys want to book Ebony, go to her page, Can I Grieve, Ebony Gibson, CEO. And I said, no, I didn't have anything else other than thank you. I didn't know if you wanted to leave the people with anything. I did ask you where Can I Grieve is going, though.
Yes, so we are definitely looking to put some events together. Like I said, geared around certain things like heart disease, different things that affect the community, the Black community. What else? What else did I say? Mental health days, different things that we touched on. And then obviously a website. We are getting a website made. I'm definitely thinking about writing a children's book. And that may lead to me writing a grief book about adult life too, but I definitely think just me coming to speak to the kids, it definitely lit something in me where I wanted to do something. And my cousin, who I told you I lost, my first cousin, she passed away to alcohol abuse over years of time. It initially took a toll on her. And she has a younger son who is, I want to say, either in 6th grade or 7th grade. And so I actually wanted to do a book and have him like co-author on a book so that he can actually generate some income for himself, because he wasn't left anything because the policy lapsed and things like that. So doing a children's book, like I said, getting a website done, putting some events together, and just continuing to network with people like you that have a platform where we want to help, the community and just help people in general, in whatever capacity that looks like. And pop-up shops, because we do have merchandise.
Period. Because we have merch, okay?
Yeah.
And you can purchase at Can I Grieve, Can I Grieve. Okay,
Exactly.
all right. But that's awesome. That's awesome. Good luck to you.
And what about you? What's next for you?
What's next for Tia? So essentially, I will be dropping my programs for April by the end of the week, so that you guys can see what is coming up. But outside of my reign, really what's next for me as a social worker, as a mental health professional, is creating a space or spaces for youth. That's the end goal, to be able to like have my own nonprofits across the nation that seek to really support impoverished communities. Like, that is what I want to do for the youth, like a place where they can go and you can receive under one roof service, medical health care, or like, therapy, or like job training for vocational skills, or like learning how to work in the garden, learning how to cook, just putting it all under one roof to just take something that we haven't seen in a long time, like these like youth centers, things that are like really powerful. Take it and make it and create it to the environment, and make it so that the youth want to engage and want like buy-in, essentially.
Right.
And so that's what I want to do. Like, outside of my like, of course I want to become Miss Black USA.
Of course, you're going to.
Of course, thank you.
Going
to.
Not want.
And not wanting to, but going to. So of course that is what is going to happen. But essentially, wherever God's taking me right now, that's where I'm headed. And what I really want to do is create mass change. And so I'm hoping that at some point in my life, I can like be having more of motivational speaking conversations and going to go talk to people in masses, and just being able to travel and just empower people while my youth centers are like thriving across the nation. And I'm just that's what I see for myself. And so that's what I get happy about. That's what I get excited about, because I really am passionate about this work.
Yeah. Well, I love you. I love you as a person. I love what you're doing in the community. And like I said, I'm glad that we were able to do this. I hope we can revisit in the future, different conversation. And yeah, I had fun being on here.
Absolutely. I love you too. This has been my girl for years, like high school.
Over a decade.
Over a decade. That is why network is important. You just never know. I had no idea that either one of us would be here right now. And so that's nothing but God. That's nothing but genuine friendship. And just over time, regardless of the amount of time we could pour into each other or not, like we still making it work because we love each other. Yeah. And so I thank you for all your support. Always. You're always in my corner. And I love you, love you, love you so much. And I can't wait to see what's next for the both of us.
Yes. Well, thank you for having me, and you guys have a good evening.
Good night, everybody. Thank you guys for joining.
Yes. Right. Bye.
Bye.